Greetings, fellow Earthlings. This is Dave Smith with another episode of And Another Thing with the Dave Man. And I am Dave. So I wanted to kind of go on a little rant about entitlements and how they are, how they could be. So currently, I used to be a property manager, right? An assistant to a property manager. So we would get checks from the city to cover people's rent if they're on, Section 8. If they have housing subsidies. So it covers market rent for people to live wherever. So these were checks for $2,700 a month. Do you mean to tell me we can't house people for less than $2,600 or $2,700 a month? So this is just buying into the for-profit housing system, right? And I have nothing against housing for profit, but there should be low-income housing that's just run at a break-even, right? Where nobody needs to profit. You just need to break even to keep the system going in perpetuity, right? So I think we need the government to step in and become a landlord of low-income housing, because otherwise there's no incentive. No investor or developer wants to make as little profit as possible, right? It's just, that's the fucked up thing about capitalism. Capitalism, left alone, and unregulated, will eat itself. It's a dog chasing its tail that catches its tail and starts eating itself, right? Once you've tapped out the lowest wage labor pool in Sri Lanka or India or Bangladesh, wherever the fuck it is, we're always on the quest for it. But once you tap that out, once you got labor as cheap as you can get it on the planet, and the materials as cheap as you can get them, and then you get the environmental restrictions completely removed so you can pollute like a motherfucker, once you do all that, how do you make more profit the next quarter? That's why capitalism, left unfettered, will fail. That's why most countries in the world have switched to a system of capitalism meets socialism, right? So you have certain industries that are kind of overseen by the state, and these are industries that are known to run amok with greed and corruption. Like, for instance, medical, education, and maybe even housing, who knows? Anyway, I'm losing my train of thought, and what I really wanted to focus on is the fact that we're being told we can't afford these social programs, but we're forking out all this money, more money, to keep part of the social program going, but also support the free market, right? So instead of just having state-run, low-income housing that's at a break-even, non-profit, realm, we have people getting subsidies to live wherever they want to live. Oh my God, $2,600 a month? It shouldn't cost that much to house somebody. If you take away the profit, that is ridiculous. So the Republicans harp about, and I'm not a Democrat. I'm begging, I'm cringing for a third party. We need a third party. So I'm not a Democrat. I voted Green Party. I'm not a Democrat, not a Republican. So we need to look outside the box. But the current system of giving somebody a voucher so that they can pay market rent, so we're housing low-income people at market rent, That's insanity. We need to build low-income housing, tiny home villages. You know, the equivalent. Tiny home villages, low-income apartment buildings, and you have those interspersed so you don't create a ghetto, right? But for fuck's sake, to give somebody a voucher so that they can, so then the taxpayers are subsidizing their rent at the overpriced asking price that the gouging landlord is asking? That's ridiculous. Especially in California, rents are through the fucking roof. And it has nothing to do with people's mortgage price or anything. It's the housing market. There's not enough housing. And now, since Corona and the crash, so since Corona, all these high-tech people haven't been going to work in San Francisco, right? And they were able to telecommute. Well, the companies quit their leases on the buildings and are telling everybody, guess what? You can permanently telecommute. So now if you worked for Yelp, Google, Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, Airbnb, or any of the other 10 fucking gig-oriented companies in San Francisco, now you don't have to live commuting distance to San Francisco. So now all those people are moving up here because it's the cheapest place and there's still a little bit of space. So now the rent's up here and the real estate prices up here are going through the roof. I just heard, I was a realtor a couple years ago, still have my license, but a fellow realtor posted on Facebook, my friend Joni, there was a place in Petaluma recently, it just went for $40,000 over asking. So what is that? That's city money coming north. That's fuck you money coming north. So what's going to happen? The prices are going to go up. It's going to be less affordable, less attainable for somebody to get their first house. So here we go again. It's happened all through San Francisco, every different neighborhood, including Western Addition and Hunters Point. Now it's, then it spread to the East Bay, South Bay. Now it's spreading here. So, but what I want to focus on is this voucher thing. So why give people a voucher to live in a market rate place and the owner of that is making a bunch of profit? So that's basically subsidizing somebody's profit. Basically, if you want to get super simple with it, right? Taxpayers subsidizing somebody's profit. Well, I say fuck that. If we're going to subsidize anything, we subsidize a non-profit that only exists to house people and not to make profit and have a house on the hill and a Mercedes and fucking blah, 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 blah. Anyway, right? So the state of California, fifth largest economy in the world, needs to become a landlord, a property manager, and start and a property developer and a realtor. The state owns a fuck ton of land. Boom. Throw up a bunch of fucking, affordable, low income and affordable housing. You need both, right? Because ideally, you're going to have people transition from one to the other. Step up the ladder, right? And along with this, we also need apprenticeship programs so people can learn how to be a painter, carpenter, plumber, yada, 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 yada. Needed trades where they can make a good living and help themselves up. And then, then you're giving them bootstraps that they can pull themselves up with. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. What are bootstraps? I've never had a pair of boots with straps on them, so I guess they just don't sell them anymore. Huh. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but the gist of this one is that people talk shit about social programs and entitlements, but we throw away so much fucking money with these voucher programs, and by avoiding, heaven forbid we have a housing system that looks anything like a socialist country. Heaven forbid, even though it works, maybe, I don't know. Let's look at the next 20 countries and see what the fuck they're doing. What's Sweden doing? Switzerland, Norway, Finland, the Netherlands, England. What do they do with housing? Germany, Italy, France, Spain, name a country. What are they doing with housing? But I bet they don't have 40% of their population that can't afford a $400 emergency. Like our current situation here in the U.S., it's dire straits. Brings up a whole nother thing. Deaths of despair. Look that up. Deaths of despair. People are killing themselves in the United States in unprecedented numbers. Drinking themselves to death, killing themselves with drugs, or straight up just suicide. But all three are cashing out, are mentally just like, I'm done. Right? If you're going to kill yourself with booze, drugs, or a bullet, you're done. So why are so many people fucking done? Oh, because it's so fucking stressful to live here now. The only industrialized nation without universal health care. It's unfathomable, really, right? It's like, what happens if, and we don't have free college, right? So what happens if you just, you're from a poor family, you grow up, you work at Walmart, you graduate high school, you work at fucking Walmart, can't really afford college, whatever, probably on food stamps, because most Walmart people are, probably don't have the best diet, so then you get diabetes and shit, because you're eating fast food, drinking too many sodas, and no free health care. Oh fuck, now you're on dialysis, right? I mean, it's a setup for a downward spiral instead of a setup to lift people up. Oh, I guess you can tell I'm a little passionate about this topic. It's just I just don't understand it. Well, I do understand it. I do understand it because there's these things called the Georgia Guidestones, right? They're on this mountain, one of the most remote places in the United States, this mountain top in Georgia. And somebody put these huge cement pillars, they're not pillars, they're basically like, what the fuck would you call it? Tablets, giant tablets. They're about 6 inches thick, 10 feet tall, and 3 feet, 4 feet wide. And there's inscriptions on them, and there's multiple. So there's, multiple walls in a circle. And inscribed in these is, you shall keep humanity below 500 million. You shall live in harmony with the earth. It's basically like the 10 commandments for the next group of humans that rise up. It's almost like we admitted defeat, and we know where we went wrong. And so somebody wrote this shit, like somebody spent a bunch of money to helicopter this shit into the middle of nowhere, have them inscribed with a bunch of different languages, fucking Latin, fucking Arabic, Spanish, English. I think there's 5 languages. I don't know how many I just named. It's been a long week. But the Georgia Guidestones, Google that. It'll fucking blow your mind. And I don't think it's a fluke. I don't think it's just some eccentric millionaire spending their money on a random whim. I think this is meant to exist for the, because these people, whoever did this, has enough money to be in the elite status, to have not real knowledge that is kept from the society. Maybe they know the apocalypse is coming. Why the fuck else would you spend millions of dollars to erect like an instructional totem pole in the middle of fucking nowhere? I don't know. But then again, who the fuck would find it? I don't know. I guess it's safe from tsunamis. Anyway, I digress. But housing vouchers. That's fucking ridiculous, right? I'm going to give you a housing voucher so that you can go rent a 1-bedroom apartment at market rate. So what does that do? That props up. It helps the rental market increase prices, because now there's a built-in, everybody that's on government subsidies can pay that, no matter what that is, quote unquote. So how the fuck is that going to keep rents in check with our spiraling rent, increases here in California? How the fuck is that going to help? What would help is mandating break even, right? So if you build an apartment complex with 100 units, 10 units should be priced where you break even and make zero profit, right? Either that, or I think a better idea is what I just came up with, and I didn't just come up with. I've been working on this for years, but I think the state of California should become a property manager and manage property that it owns, develop free for homeless, low income for employed but poor, and affordable for aspiring people to live in. And you give, and this way you're helping all of society. You give people a leg up and help people move towards home ownership. Because home ownership, the more homeowners you have, the stronger your state is, right? So why would the state not want to help people get into home ownership? Because of profit. Because of the Apartment Managers Association of America. Because of realtors. So like I said, I'm a realtor. Not active, but have an active license. And part of the dues that you have to pay as a realtor to the National Association of Real Estate, the California Association of Real Estate, the Bay Area Association of Real Estate, all these fees that you pay, they take those and they use them to lobby against rent control on similar ordinances. So the machine, the housing for profit machine, housing is merged with Wall Street. So that machine needs to churn, or so it thinks, needs to churn. And I think we need to change that. We need to at least develop another avenue of non-profit, affordable, and low-income housing. And that's still creating a fuck ton of jobs, right? People have to manage those properties. People have to build those properties. People have to manage those properties. And people have to maintain those properties. So we're creating jobs, housing people, and giving people a pathway towards ownership. How the fuck is that a bad thing? And I think I'll wrap it up on that note. This has been Dave with another episode of And Another Thing with Dave. Corona episode. Booming cases. Anyway, if you dig what I'm doing, picking up what I'm putting down, please do subscribe and share with friends. And let's share this and spread this and grow this podcast. Peace out, people, and keep fighting.